Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for inviting me to your Sangha. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. How long is the talk? What is our time
It can
line?
be from 40 to 50 minutes
Okay.
with questions and answers at the end.
Do we have a particular verse or topic?
It can be anything you would like to speak on, Prabhuji.
Okay.
It's up to you today.
Om Agyanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadam Dadhati Swapadantikam Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripadamaham vande Sri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyeshwaram Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, says to Arjuna, his dear friend and devotee, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantas chadridavrata namashyantas chamam bhaktya nityukta upasate, that my devotees always hear and chant about my glories, and in this way, they're always connected to me in bhakti, in devotion. So that is the process of Krishna consciousness. If we want to make spiritual advancement, we have to hear and chant about Krishna on a daily basis. Nowadays, people think that to be spiritual means that you're wearing a crystal, or you're wearing the right kind of dress, or you light some incense, but they have no understanding of what actual spiritual life is. Why? Because they have not accepted guidance from a bona fide teacher, from a bona fide spiritual master. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared 500 years ago in Navadvip, Mayapur. He showed us by his own personal example, because Acharya means the one who teaches by his own example, what it means to be spiritual, what it means to be a devotee of Krishna. Day before yesterday, I was in Jacksonville at Northern Florida University, and I met a couple from India. The man is a professor in psychology, and he already had gotten books from us, and he happily again took books. And at the end, he confided in me. He said, yeah, we are devotees of Krishna, but we also like wine and whiskey very much. So that is our vice, or our predicament. So we have to ensure that we don't fall into these traps, that we externally look very devotional, but internally actually we're not. Otherwise it will be counterproductive. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in Navadvip, Mayapur, he was known as Nimai Pandit, a great scholar of rhetoric, logic, and he had his own school. He was teaching many students. Yet up until the point where he met his spiritual master, Srila Ishvara Puri, whose appearance day is the day we're celebrating. Up until that point, he did not engage in preaching the message of Krishna consciousness, because he wanted to show that till you take shelter of a bona fide teacher and you follow the process correctly, you're actually not empowered, you're actually not authorized to do so. Of course, we know that whatever you have received, you can share, yet people want to not just get book knowledge. People want to see, well, how much have you understood? How much are you following? How much are you leading an exemplary life? So he went to Gaya and he got initiated by Srila Ishvara Puripad, who very mercifully bestowed his blessings on Nimai Pandit and gave him initiation. into the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, Nima Pandit was a scholar. He had many students already. He was accomplished in his own right. Yet, he showed that simple success in this material world is not really where it's at, is not really what counts. Unless you get the blessings of a pure devotee, then all our material acquisitions and our material achievements really amount to not more than a whole bunch of zeros. Now, you may have many, many zeros, but there's still zero. Unless you put one, you put Krishna in front of it, it's still zero. But if you put one, you put Krishna in front of it, then it can become a million. It can become a crore. It can become unlimitedly valuable. So that is a good reminder for us that we may be accomplished in this world of names, yet if we're not God conscious, if we don't put Krishna in the center of our activities and in the forefront of our aim, of our resolve, then all our so-called success will not amount to more than castles of sand. I'm sure you have all had the chance to experience building castles of sand. Otherwise, please do so. It is quite an experience. When children build castles of sand and the next day the castle is gone, and they realize that time and tide waits for no man. Everything that we build in this world, everything that we achieve in this world, with the tooth of time will decay, and it will just become annihilated. Yet, what we accomplish in our spiritual life, in our spiritual pursuit, that is for our eternal benefit. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came back to Mayapur from Gaya, and he tied up his books and he said that, my dear students, class is dismissed. I cannot teach you anymore. I have taken a different interest. I want to share this Sankirtan with one and all. And the students, they also tied up their books and they said, we can also not study under any other teacher, because who can choose another teacher after they have studied under you? So they also tied up their books and they all performed Sankirtan. Then Mahaprabhu would spread the Sankirtan movement in the entire Navadvip area, yet still he could see that a lot of the people at that time would not take him seriously, because they thought, oh, we know Nimai Pandit. He is the same Nimai that did all these pranks and all this mischief. And he was a scholar and he's a family man. So he's just another smart boy from our great community here in Navadvip. So he took sannyas in order to liberate all the fault finders, mayavadis, gyanis, karmis, yogis, and all the people who could not really respect and listen to him. And he gave freely in South India on his tour, Krishna Prema, pure love of Krishna, that he even did not distribute in Navadvip. In Navadvip, he had kirtan, Prem Sankirtan, in the house of Srivas Thakur, nocturnal kirtans every night, but only with a very few select intimate devotees. For the public, he would do Nagar Sankirtan and have prasad. But philosophy, he only discussed with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Ramananda Roy, Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and one more, Prakashananda Saraswati. So these are the 5 big samvadas, the 5 big discourses that make up the teaching of Lord Chaitanya, that book. And the rest was chanting and dancing and feasting. So this is very exemplary for us, because we also should find shelter at the lotus feet of an authorized spiritual master and take up to the process of Krishna consciousness, because before that, it will be very difficult for us to authentically, convincingly share the message with others, because they will ask, well, you're asking me to surrender, but how much have you surrendered? Now, I'm sure what goes through your mind, you may say, I've surrendered last year, I surrendered 10 years ago, or whenever. But surrender is a process. It is not a one-time affair. It is not something that you do once and then you be done with it. But it is a state of mind. It is a state of dependency, of taking shelter. It's called Sharanagati. Gati, or the goal, Sharana, to take refuge, to take shelter in the goal of our love, of our aspiration, which is Krishna, Krishna's pleasure, Krishna's satisfaction. That is the real process of shelter that is being described by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Anukulya Sankalp Pratikulya Savarjanam Rakshishati Vishwasho. All these different limbs and angas, all these different elements of surrender are very nicely explained: to accept things that are favorable, to reject things that are not favorable, to not waste time, to be very enthusiastic and determined, and to fully surrender ourselves to the Lord's mission. So for that, we need not only the guidance of a spiritual master, but we need the association of devotees. Because without the association of devotees, we do not really have any point of reference in whether we are making any spiritual advancement, whether we are progressing on the path. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. You have to have some point of reference. And that comes by assessment. There is self-assessment, peer assessment, and assessment by superiors. Now, peer assessment in any discipline is where you get the most traction. If you want to become expert in any discipline, surround yourself with like-minded people who are doing the same activity, and you will see how you can learn a lot just by being around them and engaging in same types of activities. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed this by his own example, by being surrounded by loving devotees, engaging in Harinam Sankirtan, and by discussing and sharing the process of bhakti, and critically, analytically, scientifically discussing this philosophy and seeing how it applies in our own lives. Nowadays, in today's world, people are very much distressed and anxious and confused over political, economical, social, medical, ideological, all kinds of topics. There's a great divide, and not just in left and right, but in unlimited factions, unlimited different groups and ideologies. Yet they all fall short of the mark. Why? Because they are not really based on the understanding of Krishna consciousness, of Atma Tattva Gyan. Unless and until we recognize that we are a spirit soul, we're not these bodies and minds, that we have a higher calling, a higher duty, all our material constructs, all our intellectual pursuits will fall short of the mark. Why? We're missing the one. We're missing Krishna, the center of all our activities. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his own example, in his own life, showed how to live a life of devotion, how to be spiritual. So today's topic is how to be spiritual, and in the negative, how not to be a pretender. Because Krishna speaks about the pretender, someone who just makes a show. He's just interested in externals, but he doesn't really understand what is the essence of what he's trying to do, what he's trying to achieve. This is not like academic cramming, where you learn data and you regurgitate it at the right point and you get a passing mark. But if someone were to ask you, what is the meaning? What is the purpose? What is the goal of this? That person would be short for words, because he would not understand what is the actual intention of that activity. So in spiritual life, it is important that we have that understanding, that philosophical foundation, yet we also need realization. In the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartumavyayam. Pratyaksha means direct perception. And realization. Realization comes from application. Otherwise, it simply stays information. But we want transformation. So transformation of heart and of life can only happen if we have realization. So to apply ourselves to the process of Krishna consciousness means it's not being an armchair philosopher. It's not just tuning into a class once a week or going to a temple or church or mosque once a week, going through the externals, through the mechanics, through the motions of it. No, it means that I have to actually invest pranararthar. We have to invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, my words, deeds, and actions into Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, whatever is not invested into Krishna consciousness will again drag us and pull us into the material world. So these are some thoughts on the Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to his dear friend Arjuna, who happened to be also the commander-in-chief of the army. He was a family man. He had wives, he had children. He was a statesman. He was a kshatriya, a fighter. So Krishna did not speak the Bhagavad Gita to a yogi or a brahmachari, a renounced person, because he wanted to set an example. He wanted to show to us that each and every one of us is on the battlefield of life, and we have to fight our war, our Kurukshetra, where we have to go against friends, family, society, and nation. And the world will not appreciate what we're doing. Yet if we understand what we have to do and do it for Krishna, then ultimately everyone will be pleased. Even though some people may object, ultimately everyone will be pleased. So these are some reflections on this verse of the Gita. We spoke about what it means to be spiritual. It's not about externals. It's really about surrendering to Krishna through the process of taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and accepting his instructions and practicing the sadhana bhakti, the daily regulative principles of Krishna consciousness, and expanding this chanting of Hare Krishna by distributing books and prasadam and giving people the opportunity of devotional service. And also through that, gaining direct experience. So it doesn't just stay theory. When we go and face the public, people will ask you, well, what's your realization? What's your understanding? What drives you? And if we tell them, well, I don't have no realization, I'm just out here because I'm told to do this, they will look at us simply as some bookseller or as some other religious fanatic. You have seen so many people who are waving scriptures at people and yelling at them, trying to spread a message by making people feel bad. And that is not very productive. That is not the way how to touch people's hearts. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and also Srila Prabhupada, our whole Guru Parampara, they show by their own example that if we really want to have impact on people's lives, we have to be humble. We have to have compassion. Trinarapi sunichena tarorapya sahishnana amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Unless and until we feel ourselves lower than a straw in the street and more tolerant than a tree, it will be very hard. It will be difficult to continuously chant Hare Krishna. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, Haridas Thakur, all these great personalities showed to us, Srila Ishvara Puri, what it means to be a humble and sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. So let us follow in their footsteps and take part in this great Sankirtan movement, expanding this hearing and chanting unlimitedly. And then Krishna guarantees us, you will get pratyaksha, you will get direct experience, you will get taste. There is no doubt about it. There's so much taste in this process of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes when I travel in India, people ask me, oh, you're from Switzerland. Why have you taken up this process of bhakti? You're from such a beautiful country. There's so much wealth. There's so much this and that. They ask me why. And I have one word for them. I say, usually I say bhakti. And if they don't get it, then I say rasam. Do you like rasam? Everybody likes rasam because there's so much ras. There is so much taste there. So if we have bhakti ras, if we have taste for devotional service of Krishna, then nothing in this mature world will really match it. Nothing can parallel it. And it's a unique flavor. It's a unique experience. It's not a material thing. In a mature world, if you give something, you expect to get something. But in bhakti, you can give and there is no strings attached. And the devotee knows that Krishna has given me assurance. He has given me promise. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Arjuna, you declare it boldly, my devotee never perishes. So the devotee is never insecure, thinking that, oh, if I give to the Lord, then I will lose. Oh, if I give donation, or if I give some offering, then I will have less. No. In fact, there is that saying that if you offer bhog, if you offer food to the Lord, it becomes more. It doesn't become less, it becomes more. Because Krishna accepts it and he gives it back with his love, with his, makes his prasad, his mercy. So we should not be in a scarcity mentality, thinking that there is not enough, like economics, first law, laws of scarcity. If there is less, then the price goes up. If there is more, the price goes down. So let's create scarcity, like we see now with the oil situation. Everyone is so worried about the oil price and about their vacation plans. Very few people think, what about those people in Ukraine, or what about those people in Russia, or in all these crisis places? No, they think, what about my gas and my vacation? So, sarve sukhino bhavantu. We should be concerned for the well-being of all living entities on the planet. What about all these helpless creatures, all these animals who are being killed? What about all these women and children and old people who are being killed and tortured? How far can our thought, our actions reach? So Krishna consciousness is the positive solution. It is a positive alternative. If you truly want to see change in the world and have impact, become a devotee of Krishna, and your impact will be felt in the world. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, little Dhruva was 5 years old, and he went to the forest and he chanted the mantra he got from Narada Muni, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He was standing on one leg, and within a short time, just 1 week, he became so expert and so powerful in this chanting of mantra that the whole universe was suffocating. And the Lord personally came to give him his blessings. So in a similar way, if we perfect the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and the spreading of it, Krishna is responsive. We can attract his attention. Now, we went to Baton Rouge, LSU, and we saw that not just there at the university, but people are very receptive. People are they're very receptive. They're looking for alternatives because life in the mature world is becoming exceedingly difficult. Maya is doing her job. She's turning up the heat. And people are realizing that this place is maybe not such a nice place. We should see for some alternative solution. And that is Krishna consciousness. When we were distributing books in New Orleans in the French Quarter, one artist, he was pushing his big cart with his art that he was to display and sell. And I just struck up a conversation with him. And he told me that some days I'm praying that all the inhabitants of this city of New Orleans would play with Krishna and steal butter with Krishna and play games with Krishna and put butter in Krishna's mouth and eat all the prasad that Krishna is giving them. And at other times I'm praying that let the whole city of New Orleans be on the lap of Lord Nishingadev. And he will just rip them to pieces, to shreds. So he obviously already had books and visited the temple. He took some more books, and he's very appreciative of the devotees trying to share Krishna consciousness with others. So it's not enough that we just sit in our homes and in our temples and ring the bell every now and then, but we have to go out and meet the public like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did and give Krishna consciousness to them. Then we will get actual pratyaksha. We'll get actual experience, actual faith, actually taste of that rasam, that bhakti ras, what it means to share Krishna consciousness. And once you have that taste, that rasa, then any other flavor in the material world will seem pale in comparison. Even if people will offer you any amount of wealth, any amount of position or success in exchange for that bhakti rasa, the devotee will say, thank you, but no thank you. I'm fine. I'm fine. I have something that is much better. I have something that is fully satisfying. Thank you for your kind attention. Do you have time for some questions or discussion?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a powerful and engaging lecture. It personally felt like a wake-up call for me, and I'm sure everyone can relate to that. We really appreciate you. So yes, we have time for questions. I request anyone in the audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself, or you can also use the hand raise option, or you can also provide your question in the chat.
Yeah, Dr. Bhavu Sarkar ji raised
Yes, I have
his
a
hand.
question.
He had questions.
Prabhuji, you talk very eloquently. I must appreciate very clearly. I have one question. There are several questions, but I will not ask more than one, as because other audience may ask also questions. How one will know that he has achieved the goal of this Krishna consciousness, and what stage you can measure that, or you imagine how I measure that I have achieved the goal, or I will not be reborn. I have come to the point I will not be reborn. How
Thank you.
does one person know it? Because we always see that other people have achieved, but I have never heard or read anywhere that he himself claimed that he has achieved.
Okay, you raised three important points here. First of all, how do we know that we make progress? Krishna speaks in the Uddhava Gita in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana, and he tells Uddhava, Bhakti Pareshanubhava Virakti Ranyatraschat, Chaishatrika Ekakala, Pratyadi Manavasya Yatasyanta Shnus, Tushti Pushti Kshut Apayunugasam. He says, Bhakti Paresh Anubhava, that when you practice bhakti, you have that direct experience of the Lord. And what happens through that? You develop virakti. You have attachment to Krishna, and you have virakti, detachment from the material world. As long as I'm still attached to material world, I can't be really attached to Krishna. We have 100% of attachment. So if we are 50% attached to Maya, then okay, there is some room for Krishna also. That's good. But you get it? There's 100% attention. So where does my attention go? And tushti pushti kshut, there is taste, there is nourishment and satisfaction. These three things have to occur naturally through the practice of bhakti. I should not feel that after I've been to temple, oh, let me go to the bar, let me go to the hotel now and eat some non-veg. Like people go to church and then they go for drinking right after that. That means maybe their communion with the Lord was not really fulfilling. Otherwise, why would they need to go to the bar after church? Then the second point you raised was, you put three questions in one, so you're intelligent person, you know. You get 3 for 1. So the second question you raised is, how do I know? And you answered your question yourself by saying that if I go back to Godhead, Krishna says in Gita, Janma karma chame divyang evang yoveti tattvatyaha tyaktadeham punar janma naiti mameti sorjuna, that if you know the truth about my birth, my activities, my pastimes, you won't have to be reborn again in this mature world. We don't want to come again here, not as animals, not as plants, not as humans, not as demigods. We should finish our business and go back to Krishna and participate in his pastime. That is truly pleasing and joyful. So that is the criterion of success. Vishwamitra ji, he was asked by Maharaj Dasarat, not how are you, how is your body feel, how is your bank balance, how are the kids doing? No. Aishtam yatat punarjanma jayaya. How successful are you in conquering over birth and death? So we should ask ourselves that question. How successful am I in conquering over Bhava Sagar, this ocean of birth and death? And the third question that you were raising, please remind me. The last point you made. Yes, I remember. A devotee is always humble. A devotee will never say, oh, I'm just so advanced. Oh, I have achieved this state. I have achieved that state. I am very elevated. A devotee will always be humble and meek. So a devotee will never blow his own horn and proclamate his own glories. In fact, a devotee will take the humble position and say, I have no love for Krishna. I am very fallen. I'm insignificant. Not as a matter of etiquette, as a matter of speech, as a matter of PR, but as his own true, real realization. And that humility attracts Krishna's attention. As long as we think that we are somebody exalted, Krishna doesn't really pay that much attention. But when we are in a position of need, in a position of longing, of separation, and we cry out for Krishna, then Krishna is attracted. Just like if the child is simply nagging, the mother will not really pay that much attention. But if the child is crying out with real desperation, the mother will come running to take care of that child. So empathy, and also that sincere calling for the Lord, it cannot be faked. It cannot be, it's not a show, an external thing. So it's okay to feel deficient. It's okay to feel unqualified and undeserving. At the same time, that should not debilitate us and prevent us from trying to improve ourselves and to advance further in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes people may say, oh, I'm just a fallen soul. So that's why I have to do all these things, because that's normal. That's what fallen souls do. And every now and then I feel a little bad. And every now and then I do, a little punya, and then there's a little papa. And in this way, I keep my spreadsheet balanced. You've heard this philosophy before, right? Don't subscribe to that ideology. Because whether you do papa or punya, it is still a material activity. It is still a material spreadsheet, and it will keep you bound in this world. You will have to come back to collect your punya, and you will have to come back in order to suffer your papa. But when we engage in Krishna consciousness, then akama sarvakamo va mokshakamo daradi tivrine bhakti yogena yajita purusha param, then akama, sarvakama, mokshakama, all this will get resolved through the process, Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajita Purusha Param, you will achieve the supreme destination. So just keep on practicing bhakti, and all these things will become clarified. I hope this helps.
Thank you very
Other
much.
questions?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Prabhu, I have a question. You mentioned about 100% bhakti. So if
100%?
bhakti,
Bhakti.
Yes.
so how can a family man spend 100% of his time in Krishna consciousness? Then he will not be able to manage other responsibilities.
By doing everything that you do for Krishna. Who would you rather work for the boss or for Krishna? It's a rhetorical question, right?
Yes,
It
but
doesn't
when I'm
mean that
working,
it doesn't mean that we become irresponsible. It doesn't mean that we quit our job. It doesn't mean we're not following our obligations. Krishna did not tell Arjuna, okay, I'm going to fight the war for you, and you can sit on the chariot and smoke ganja. No, he told Arjuna, you fight this war, but you fight for me. Okay? So you go, you do your duty, but not for your selfish interests. You do it for me, as an offering for me. So Arjuna was shooting arrows for Krishna. You may be doing tech, or you may be doing engineering, or you may be doing teaching, or you may be doing business, or you may be a housewife who is cooking and taking care of a family, or you may be a student going to school. But if we're not doing it for our own pratishta, for our own fame and our own ego, but we're doing it as an offering for Krishna, that will be the perfection. That will be wonderful. And Krishna will accept that offering. Because Krishna is very modest. He's not asking for much. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati tadaram bhakti paritam ashnami praitatmanaha. You offer me a fruit, a water, a leaf, or flower, with love, with devotion, I will accept it. So Krishna is bhava grahi janardan. He accepts the bhava, the bhav, the emotion, not the thing, but the mood, the spirit in which we are offering it. So try it out for the next week and meditate on this. Today I'm going to go work for Krishna. Whatever I do, I'm going to offer it to Krishna. Yes, I'm going to have to pay my bills. I have to take care of my responsibilities. I have to maintain my family. But I don't see those duties and those individuals as separate from Krishna. It's not that Krishna is just in the temple. It's not that he's just on the altar. But Krishna he's present everywhere. So to see things as separate from Krishna, that is considered Maya. It is stated that Bhayam Dvitya Biniveshatasya Dishadapitasya Viparyo Smriti, that if we see things as separate from the Lord, then fear arises. We become fearful. Oh, somebody's going to take away something. Somebody's going to do something. So as long as we're still in the state of anxiety, it means we're not really Krishna conscious. We still have hankering and lamentation. That will be resolved by being Krishna conscious. So don't let your mind and your intelligence create this artificial dichotomy of, oh, either I give up everything and surrender everything and I'm a surrendered devotee, or I'll be a responsible materialist. So what do you want? When people give you this blue and red or white or black or left or right type of choice, we should say this is a false argument. Is there any third alternative? Is there any way of how to reconcile the two? Why not be a responsible spiritualist? Fulfill your duties, but also be spiritually aware and conscious and do things in the right way. That would be a better solution, right? So that is our duty. That is our mission in Krishna consciousness. Any other questions or points?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your inspiring lecture. I have a question. As trying to be a devotee, try to do devotional services, I'm trying to distribute books, so I'm still very inexperienced. I just want to ask Prabhu, do you have encountered that kind of situation when you give a book away to as a gift, and then your friend return it back to you? So what do you do? Have you encountered that?
Well, you asked them, what did you like? How was it? You know, like, do you have any questions? Did you read it? I mean, it's a friend, you know, so there's the good side and the bad side. The good side is that they're your friend, which means you have access to them and they cannot avoid you. You know, because they consider you their friend, right? So there's some rapport, some relationship. So they take it, but the bad side of it is they may not take you that seriously, because either you're a friend, just a social friend, or a friend from work. And so they think like, yeah, okay, I feel obliged, so I look at it, but I'm not really that interested. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to get out of Navadvip, where everybody thought, yeah, he's just another chela, you know, it's just another one of those boys that were doing all that mischief, you know. They did not really take him seriously. So sometimes to try to share Krishna consciousness amongst our friends or amongst our family is very difficult, because people think, oh, that's just, you know, this is just Choto, and this is just this Bachar, and this is this guy, and, you know, they're not really taking you so much seriously. So sometimes sharing the message with strangers, with total newcomers, is more productive than trying to convince, you know, friends or family. But if you have the ability, especially by being a good example and role model, being very kind, being very compassionate, people will become affected. It will take time, but people will become affected. I'm hosted here by one of my friends here in Alachua right now, who has a big family and a big heart, and almost every day of the week there's so many people who come to his house just to take part in kirtan and prasadam and discussions on Krishna consciousness. So depending on how much we are able to open ourselves to this process, the more Krishna can empower us to share this message. But personally speaking, for me, I like to just go on universities and out on the streets into the great unknown and just approach one and all and just share this message. And I've seen that Krishna does the magic. He sends people. When I was walking out from the French quarters, one young man who was just walking in, I gave him books, he contributed, and at the end, he grabbed my hand and he shook my hand really hard. And he said 3 times, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is just what I needed. This is a sign from God. This is just what I had to experience. So this happens on a regular basis. That yet a friend or a colleague or a family member, they will most likely not respond like that, because it's more a formal relationship, so to speak. So don't limit yourself to just sharing the message in one way. There's so many ways of how to do that. Sometimes we confide ourselves. We say, okay, I'll do a book table, and I stand behind a table. And we'll be like all these other student clubs and tables where we just wait for people to approach us. But we can see even they have learned from us and copied our techniques. And they have gone out and started distributing flyers and cookies and books and invitations. So where did all these groups learn this from? From us, because we've been doing it for the last 50 years. Now we should also be able to learn from them, because some things they're doing much better than we are doing. Like follow-up, you know, taking contacts, inviting people, sending out things on email and social media, and keeping in touch. So there's a lot of room for improvement. The more we try to serve the mission of Guru and Gauranga, the more Krishna will empower you. And every individual has unique potential, unique capacity. So everyone is different. Some will do it in this way, some will do it in that way. But what is really important is that we get that pratyaksha, we get that real experience of, hey, Krishna is doing it. Krishna is doing the magic. He's really transforming hearts. It's possible. All
Thank
right.
you so much. Yeah,
You're
thank you
welcome.
so much.
Thank you.
You, any other questions or reflections from anyone?
Yes, I'd like to thank Sarvatarak Prabhu and his family for hosting us and all the other devotees in these programs and keeping up the flag of Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement. The baton rouge, the red
Stick.
stick, should be named as the flag of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sankirtan movement, and for facilitating this Sankirtan effort in that area. It's very endearing to see. I know the ground, the soil is very fertile there, and by your combined efforts, many wonderful things can happen in building a community there in Baton Rouge, and many very sincere souls are there, especially at the university. I've met many seekers, many people who are seriously interested in Krishna consciousness. So please keep up the good work, and we're looking forward to see all of you sometime soon. Krishna willing. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled devotees. I have some other engagements, so I will have to take your leave. I believe you'll have some more activities, so don't quit, but I take your leave. All glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.